In this video, let's look at a couple players who can possibly return from IR this weekend, or if the Chiefs end up winning on Saturday, Mecole Hardman's continued setbacks even after coming back from IR himself, and then talk about something quarterback Trevor Lawrence said in a recent presser that may have added some fuel to the fire at Arrowhead, for the crowd at least, this Saturday. But first, how about those? All right, let's get right into this video, starting with an updated injury report, starting with the Jags. Their report looked as follows: wide receivers Kendrick Pryor, shoulder, and Jamal Agnew, shoulder. Center Luke Fortner, back, and QB Trevor Lawrence, toe, have been limited all week so far, but I would expect them all to play. Trevor Lawrence's toe has been banged up for a while now, so this is really nothing new for him. And then long snapper Ross Matiskik, back, and guard Brandon Scherf, abdomen, did not participate Tuesday, but were limited today, so they seem to be trending in the right direction as of right now. It is worth noting that both Scherf and Fortner are both starting linemen for the Jags and are banged up, so we got to keep our eyes on that for sure. Maybe that'll help the Chiefs D-line get home to Trevor Lawrence even more than they did last time, which was like 5 or 6 times, quite a bit. Anyway, as far as the Chiefs go, not much changed for them on the injury report from yesterday. It actually mirrors it exactly. Mecole Hardman did not participate Tuesday or Wednesday, and more than likely will not play this Saturday due to continued setbacks he's dealing with after returning from IR. More on Mecole in a moment. Frank Clark, who strained his groin in the Week 18 game against the Raiders, has been limited all week but making good progress, according to Coach Reed in his presser yesterday. And then both Sky Moore and L'Jarius Sneed have been full participants all week, which is a great sign. Sneed seems to be healing up, hopefully all the way up, from that hit pointer he got after being tackled during his interception in the Broncos game. He did play in the Raiders game Week 18, but was certainly not playing at 100%, so hopefully the bye week really helped him. And then Sky Moore didn't play in Week 18 against the Raiders because of a laceration on his hand that he got near the end of the Seahawks game in Week 17, but has been seen out at practice catching passes and should more than likely suit up and play on Saturday. So that's good news, considering Mecole Hardman will more than likely not be playing in Saturday's divisional game. And say what you want about Sky Moore, I don't know how many reps he's going to get. Thank God Kadarius Toney is here, but it is worth noting that they are going to have another receiver at their disposal, because last time it was no Mecole and no Sky, then they had to call up a receiver from the practice squad. Anyway, back to Mecole Hardman. I mentioned it earlier briefly and also in more detail during last night's live stream, even more in last night's live stream actually, that I'm going to talk about right here. So make sure to check out the beginning 10 or 15 minutes if you haven't already. Anyway, Andy Reid said that Mecole's injury, that he will not disclose any details about, is flaring up and bothering him during the ramp up process at practice. So they are going to be easing him off of practice, just basically hitting pause, pumping the brakes. And basically how Andy Reid was speaking about Mecole Hardman, I would say, do not expect him out there on Saturday. I give him like a 2% chance. And then it's possible we may not see him at all in the postseason if the Chiefs manage to beat the Jags on Saturday and move on to the AFC Championship game against either the Bills or the Bing Bings. And check out this tweet from Mecole Hardman. He said this, short, sweet, and to the point: marathon greater than sprint, which I took as meaning long-term in the NFL is bigger than rushing back to play in the postseason, or more optimistically took that to mean that he's just taking his time to return. You still might see him this postseason if the Chiefs beat the Jags, and that's more important than forcing to return this week. So yeah, you guys can go ahead and take that however you'd like, but the guy has been injured since the beginning of November, and if he's still not ready by now and is still dealing with setbacks, we may want to consider him very unlikely to play the rest of the postseason. And honestly, it's a good mindset to have, because if he actually does end up playing, we can just be pleasantly surprised. I would honestly love it. Mecole Hardman and Kadarius Toney, please God, thank you. Anyway, moving on, Pete Sweeney noted that today's practice, at least from his media look, was basically the same report as yesterday. Sky Moore looks fine. Frank Clark and Sneed are moving well. And he also notes something else that we haven't talked about yet in today's video, but that is Jody Fortson is back at practice and could be seen in an elbow brace, and then CEH is also out there as well practicing. Jody Fortson was placed on IR on December 23rd due to an elbow injury, I think a dislocation of that elbow that he sustained in the Texans game, and then CEH was placed on IR back on November 23rd due to a high ankle sprain that happened in the Sunday night game against the Chargers. Well, both of these guys, Fortson, CEH being seen back at practice means that their 21-day window to return from IR has officially opened up as of yesterday because they were both seen practicing on Tuesday, and that means they could both play in Saturday's game. Maybe. I have no idea if either of these guys will actually be ready by then, and they also will not appear on the injury report since they're not technically on the roster. But I will say this, if they're not quite ready for Saturday and the Chiefs end up winning, beating the Jags, which I hope they do, they're favored to do so, CEH and or Jody Fortson could more than likely play in the AFC Championship game. Now, in order for them to do that, they'd have to make room on the 53-man roster. That's a whole nother conversation, but I would not complain to have Jody Fortson and CEH back on the team. Fortson is a nice red zone weapon to have, and CEH would just be a nice presence in the running back room to have out there as in case of emergency depth if Pacheco or McKinnon got hurt, needed oxygen, or anything like that. I don't think he's going to hopefully take any serious snaps away from Pacheco or McKinnon if he does come back, but you never know. Anyway, enough about injuries, because from here, we got to talk about what the Jaguars' shiny-haired, Waffle House-eating quarterback Trevor Lawrence had to say in a presser yesterday. It had to do with the noise levels at Arrowhead, and I believe by him saying what he said, he inadvertently just stirred up a hornet's nest, and honestly, I'm freaking glad. He wasn't rude or disrespectful or anything like that, no, but I do think he was rather naive and will regret acting like Arrowhead will not be any louder this Saturday than their stadium was last weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the environment and the atmosphere we're going to play in is one of, if not the best in the NFL. I mean, I can't imagine it'll be much louder than our fans were here on Saturday, honestly.
I can't imagine it'll be much louder than our fans were here on Saturday, honestly.
But that was when we were on defense, not offense. So we played there earlier in the year, but this is a little bit different. You know, it's a playoff game, divisional round, so the stakes are higher. So I expect them to be even crazier, more packed stadium. But I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta go play, and you gotta make sure you communicate. That's the one thing. We gotta get in and out of the huddle. We got to get to the line of scrimmage so we have time to communicate, because everything naturally takes a little longer when it's loud.
Oh, buddy, you can hear in his tone, he's not really trying to be disrespectful. I think it's more trying to compliment their fans and say they are loud and proud and do a really good job, pat on the back when they cheer them on, talking about his own fan base. He also stated the obvious. They played at Arrowhead earlier this season and did acknowledge that it could be a bit crazier being a playoff game and that the key is just communication, stating it may take a bit longer to communicate because of all the noise. Well, listen, bud, I'm not sure you're quite ready for the level of noise Arrowhead is about to be this Saturday. I mean, playoff Arrowhead is a different beast, which interim Colts head coach and former player Jeff Saturday acknowledged as much last postseason on television.
Listen, I played in a playoff game. I played there many times, but I played in a playoff game, and literally with my face mask touching my guard's face mask, we are screaming at each other, and we cannot understand what each other are saying.
So yeah, they had to scream at each other face to face and could still barely make out and could still barely understand what was being said to one another. So good luck with that, Trevor Lawrence and company. And not only is it hard to communicate, but Jeff Saturday shared how much his ears were ringing and for how long after that playoff game.
But I'm telling you, like for 2 and 3 days after you leave, your ears are ringing. It is that loud and it is that intense.
Again, playoff Arrowhead is on a different level, so you definitely have to come prepared because it's going to make things extremely difficult at times for the opposing team. And obviously, I will point out that the crowd noise does not make the Chiefs invincible in the postseason. After all, they lost in the 2018 AFC Championship game in overtime to the Patriots and also last year's AFC Championship game to the Bengals, which were both at home. But I will go as far to say that it really does help the Chiefs and make things pretty freaking difficult at times for the opposing teams on offense. And if Trevor Lawrence and company don't think it's going to be the biggest of deals because they played there earlier this season, they may be in for a rude awakening. Make sure to share this video with any and every Chiefs fan that plans on going to the game this Saturday, just so they're aware of what Trevor Lawrence and his nice hair said, and maybe it'll give them a little extra motivation to shred their vocal cords even more when they're at the game. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?